Yeah, after 5 years in a coma, I couldn't wait to surprise my wife Carmen at Torres Construction, my company. I walked through the front doors with a huge smile, ready to shout, "Surprise!" But the words died in my throat when I heard a stranger's voice echo through the lobby. "Scrub that floor properly, or you know what'll happen." Through the hallway, I saw Carmen on her knees, wearing a janitor's uniform, frantically cleaning the marble floors of our own building. Who dared to force my wife to work as a janitor like this? I would make them pay. Before I reveal what really happened during those 5 years, I was unconscious. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching this from and what time it is there. The first thing I remember after 5 years of darkness was Dr. Sebastian Vale's voice, cracking with disbelief. "Helen, get over here right now. This is impossible." They stood over my hospital bed like I was some kind of miracle, which I guess I was. After 5 years in a vegetative state, Denver General had written me off long ago. "Mr. Torres." "Doctor," Vale said, his hands trembling, "you've been unconscious since 2018. We're calling it a medical miracle." As consciousness returned, memories flooded back like a warm embrace. Sophia's giggles echoing through our Denver home as she chased our golden retriever. Carmen's soft humming while preparing Sunday dinners, brushing flour from her apron with that beautiful smile. Those were the golden days at Torres Construction when I'd built the company from nothing into Denver's most trusted construction firm. Every evening I'd come home covered in sawdust, and Carmen would tease me about tracking dirt through her clean house. Sophia would run into my arms, not caring how dirty my work clothes were. The moment I was cleared, I knew exactly where to go. Torres Construction had been my life's work, and after 5 years away, I couldn't wait to surprise my employees and see Carmen's face light up when I walked in. I signed myself out against Dr. Vale's protests and caught a taxi straight to 32nd Avenue. But something felt wrong the moment I stepped out of that cab. The building looked the same, but there was a new sign where Torres Construction used to be. Cross Maintenance and Cleaning Services in bold black letters. My stomach dropped, but I told myself there had to be an explanation. I pushed through the front doors when I heard a stranger's harsh voice echoing from inside. "Scrub that floor properly, or you know what'll happen." I followed the sound down the hallway, and what I saw stopped my heart cold. Carmen, my beautiful, dignified Carmen, was on her hands and knees scrubbing toilet bowls with a worn brush. She wore a faded gray uniform with "Cross Maintenance" stitched across the back, her once manicured hands red and cracked from cleaning chemicals. This was the woman who used to organize charity galas, who commanded respect in every room. Now she was being treated like hired help in our own building. "Dad!" Damien's voice made me spin around. My son-in-law appeared in the doorway, his face quickly shifting from surprise to what looked like genuine joy. "Oh my God, you're awake? This is incredible." He rushed forward with arms spread wide, but something flickered in his eyes for just a split second. Something that didn't match his enthusiastic smile. "Carmen, look. Dad's finally come home to us." Carmen looked up from her scrubbing, terror unmistakable in her eyes. She scrambled to her feet, dropping the brush with a clatter. When she leaned in for what looked like a welcoming hug, her whispered words chilled me to the bone. "Caspian, pretend you don't remember anything, or we'll all be in danger." That night, Carmen drove us home in complete silence, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. The house I'd built 15 years ago on Cherry Creek Drive still stood, but everything felt wrong. The front garden Carmen used to tend was overgrown with weeds, paint peeling from shutters, and the porch swing where Sophia read bedtime stories hung crooked on rusted chains. This wasn't the warm family home I remembered. It felt cold, like happiness had been systematically drained away. Inside was worse. Expensive furniture I didn't recognize filled our living room, while family photos had been replaced with generic artwork. The kitchen where Carmen used to bake cookies looked sterile and unused. Everything screamed of Damien's control, suffocating the life out of our sanctuary. Carmen collapsed onto our old couch and buried her face in her hands. When she looked up, tears streamed down her cheeks as the horrible story poured out. "The medical bills, Caspian," she whispered, glancing nervously toward the stairs. "After your accident, they were astronomical. Hundreds of thousands for specialized care, experimental treatments. I had no idea how to handle business finances. You always took care of everything." Her voice cracked. "Damien stepped in, said he'd help manage Torres Construction temporarily. Then he told me the company couldn't afford your medical expenses anymore." She wiped her nose with shaking hands. He said if I wanted to keep you alive, I'd have to work for his cleaning service. Cross maintenance. He took over all our contracts, told clients Torres Construction was restructuring. I had no choice. Scrub floors or watch you die in that hospital bed. The cruelty hit me like a physical blow. My son-in-law had turned my wife into his servant, using my life as leverage. "What about Sophia?" I asked, dreading the answer. Carmen's face crumpled. "She's been homeschooled for 3 years. Damien said it was better while you were sick, but really he wanted control. She can't have friends over no sleepovers or school events. He told her if she complained or contacted anyone outside the family, he'd send her to live with strangers and she'd never see us again." Soft footsteps on the stairs made us both look up. Sophia appeared at the landing and my heart shattered. My little girl, once round-cheeked and energetic, now looked thin and pale. Her bright eyes were filled with wariness no 12-year-old should carry. She took one tentative step down, meeting my gaze with such longing it made my chest ache. I started to stand, but she shook her head quickly and retreated upstairs. Her bedroom door closing echoed like a gunshot. Carmen watched with tears in her eyes. "She wants to run to you so badly, but she's terrified. Damien's made sure of that." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Caspian, there's something else about your accident. The police report never made sense. You were such a careful driver, the weather was perfect that day. But the investigation closed so quickly and Damien seemed to know details he shouldn't have known." She grabbed my hands desperately. "There's something else you need to know about your accident, Caspian. It wasn't really an accident." The next morning, Carmen's words echoed in my mind. If my accident wasn't random, someone had deliberately tried to kill me. As I sat staring at coffee, I couldn't drink a name surfaced from my memories. Warren Mitchell. He'd been our head of vehicle maintenance at Torres Construction for 8 years, with access to every truck and my personal vehicle. His sudden resignation right after my accident now seemed suspicious rather than coincidental. Finding Warren took most of the day. His apartment was empty, phone disconnected, and former employees hadn't heard from him in years. Finally, a bartender on Colfax Avenue mentioned seeing someone matching his description at the Rusty Anchor, a dive bar near the South Platte River. The place was exactly what I expected. Dim lighting, cracked vinyl booths, and the smell of stale beer and broken dreams. I found Warren hunched over whiskey in the corner, looking like he'd aged 20 years in 5. "Jesus Christ," he whispered when he saw me, his glass trembling. "Caspian, they said you'd never wake up." The Warren I remembered had been clean-cut and reliable. This man was hollow-eyed and unshaven, wearing clothes that hadn't been washed in days. I sat across from him, keeping my voice low. "Warren, I need to ask about my accident. My wife thinks it wasn't random." The color drained from his face, and his hands shook so badly he put down his drink. "Oh, God," he moaned, burying his face in his palms. "I've been waiting 5 years for this conversation." Tears started streaming down his cheeks as he looked up at me. "Caspian, I'm so sorry. I'm so goddamn sorry for what I did to you. I've destroyed my entire life thinking about it every single day. Please, please forgive me." His voice broke completely as he sobbed. "I never meant for it to go that far. I swear on my mother's grave I thought it was just supposed to scare you." The words poured out like water through a broken dam after his desperate apology. "Damien approached me 3 weeks before your accident. Offered me $50,000 cash. At first I thought he was joking, but he showed me bank statements. The money was real." My blood turned to ice as Warren continued. "He wanted me to tamper with your brake lines, make it look like mechanical failure. Said you'd been drinking heavily, that the family was worried. He convinced me it was an intervention just to scare you into getting help." Warren's voice cracked. "But when I loosened those brake fittings, I knew it wasn't about scaring anyone. Those brakes would fail completely on the first steep hill. The full scope of Damien's betrayal hit me like a sledgehammer. He planned this from the beginning," I said. "The accident taking over the company, controlling my family. It was all calculated." Warren nodded miserably. "After the crash, when they said you might never wake up, I realized what I'd done. I'd helped him commit attempted murder. I quit the next day, couldn't stand being around Torres Construction. I've been drinking myself to death since, trying to forget." "Warren, do you have any proof? Anything that could prove Damien paid you?" Warren's eyes lit up with desperate hope. Yes, I do. But not here." He stood unsteadily. "It's all back at my place. A storage unit on Federal Boulevard. I kept everything hidden there. Bank records, Recordings, photos, everything. He grabbed my arm urgently. Come with me right now. I'll show you everything. I'll testify against him, Mr. Torres. I can't live with this guilt anymore. I have everything we need to destroy him. With Warren's evidence secured, we knew we had the ammunition to destroy Damien, but I needed professional guidance to use it effectively. Warren suggested Maxwell Stone, a prominent attorney, whose downtown office occupied the top floor of Republic Plaza. Stone had built his reputation taking down corrupt executives, and had never lost a corporate fraud case. Maxwell Stone was exactly what I had expected. Silver-haired, sharp-eyed, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's cars. He spread Warren's evidence across his conference table like a general planning a military campaign. "Gentlemen," he said after examining the bank records and recorded phone conversations, "this is the most airtight case of attempted murder and corporate fraud I've seen in 25 years. He held up an audio recording where Damien's voice was crystal clear, discussing brake tampering. This alone would put him away for 15 to 20 years. Add the financial records showing systematic embezzlement from Torres Construction, and we're looking at multiple felony convictions." Stone leaned back with a predatory smile. "Not only will we get your company back, Mr. Torres, but we'll ensure Cross spends decades in federal prison." Warren shifted nervously. "What about my involvement? I actually sabotaged the brakes." Stone waved dismissively. "You'll testify under immunity as a cooperating witness. Your cooperation will keep you out of prison, though you'll face probation and community service." Our next stop was Denver Police Department on Cherokee Street, where Detective Troy Anderson reviewed our evidence with methodical precision. Anderson was stocky with graying temples and the weathered look of someone who'd seen every kind of human cruelty. "This is solid gold," he said, tapping the financial documents. "Attempted murder, fraud, embezzlement. We can arrest Cross tonight." But Stone had a better idea. "Detective, what if we let Cross hang himself publicly? First, tomorrow, Torres will call an emergency board meeting. Warren appears as a surprise witness, and will give Cross one chance to confess and return everything voluntarily." Anderson nodded approvingly. "When he refuses, which he will, we'll have everything on record. If he tries to run or destroy evidence, we add obstruction of justice." The strategy was brilliant. We'd confront Damien in his moment of triumph, surrounded by the company he'd stolen with Warren's testimony, destroying his lies piece by piece. Stone would be there as legal counsel, Anderson would have backup units ready outside, and Warren would deliver the knockout blow with recorded evidence. That evening, sitting in our living room on Cherry Creek Drive, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 5 years. Genuine hope. Tomorrow I would face the man who'd tried to murder me, who'd enslaved my wife and terrorized my daughter. But this time, I wouldn't be helpless in a hospital bed. This time I'd have justice on my side. Carmen squeezed my hand as we watched the sunset. "Are you ready for this?" I thought about Warren's remorse, Stone's confidence, and Anderson's authority. "Tomorrow we take back what's rightfully ours, Carmen. Justice will be served." The Torres Construction boardroom had never seen anything like it. I walked through those familiar glass doors at exactly 10 o'clock Tuesday morning, wearing my best charcoal suit and carrying myself like the CEO I'd always been. Warren followed close behind, clutching a briefcase full of evidence that would change everything. The board members, men who'd worked with me for years before my accident, looked up in stunned silence as I took my seat at the head of the conference table. Damien sat frozen in my old chair, his face cycling through shock, confusion, and growing terror as his eyes locked onto Warren. What is he doing here?" Damien stammered, his usual smooth confidence cracking like thin ice. The color drained from his face as Warren set down his briefcase and began pulling out manila folders. "Gentlemen," I announced to the 5 board members, "I'd like to introduce some new evidence regarding my accident 5 years ago." Maxwell Stone stepped into the room behind us, his presence adding legal weight to our confrontation. "Warren Mitchell, our former head of vehicle maintenance, has something important to share with all of you." Warren's hands trembled as he stood, but his voice grew stronger with each word. 5 years ago, Damien Cross paid me $50,000 to sabotage Mr. Torres's brake system. The boardroom erupted in gasps and angry murmurs. Warren held up a digital recorder. I have our entire conversation recorded, including his specific instructions on how to make the accident look mechanical. He pressed play, and Damien's voice filled the room with crystal clarity. "Make sure those brakes fail completely on the first hill he hits. It needs to look like an accident, Warren. No one can ever trace this back to us." The recording continued for several damning minutes, with Damien discussing payment schedules and cleanup procedures. That's not all. Warren continued spreading bank statements across the table. Here are the wire transfers showing Damien's payments to my account. And these, he held up photographs, show the brake damage before I doctored the repair reports. Damien finally found his voice, but it came out as a desperate whisper. You can't prove anything. Warren's a drunk liar. This is all fabricated. Stone stepped forward with a predatory smile. Mr. Cross, we also have evidence of systematic embezzlement from Torres construction accounts, fraudulent contracts, and identity theft. The FBI will be very interested in your creative bookkeeping. The board members stared at Damien with disgust and horror. Tom Bradley, our longest-serving member, spoke for everyone. Damien, you need to resign immediately and return control of this company to its rightful owner. Cornered and exposed, Damien's shoulders sagged in defeat. With shaking hands, he signed the resignation papers Stone had prepared, officially transferring all authority back to me. The man who'd tried to murder me, who'd enslaved my wife and terrorized my daughter, was finally stripped of his stolen power. But as Damien gathered his things to leave, his defeated posture straightened into something darker. At the boardroom door, he turned back with eyes full of pure hatred. This isn't over, old man, he snarled, his mask of civility completely gone. You think you've won, but you have no idea what I'm capable of. You'll regret this. The door slammed behind him with such force that the conference table shook. Warren collapsed into his chair, emotionally drained from his confession. The board members sat in stunned silence, processing the revelation that their company had been run by an attempted murderer for 5 years. I should have felt victorious, but Damien's parting words echoed in my mind like a warning. This battle was won, but something told me the war was far from over. The week following our boardroom victory felt like stepping back into a life I'd thought was lost forever. Carmen's transformation was immediate and beautiful. The morning after Damien's resignation, she walked into our bedroom, carrying the gray cross-maintenance uniform she'd been forced to wear for 3 years. Without a word, she tossed it into the fireplace and lit a match. As the fabric burned, tears of relief streamed down her face. I never have to wear that again, she whispered. She threw herself back into being the woman I'd married, organizing our household, cooking elaborate dinners, and becoming the mother Sophia desperately needed. Her laughter returned, filling our house on Cherry Creek Drive with warmth. She started tending her garden again, planting flowers where neglect had left only weeds. The most precious change was watching Sophia emerge from her shell of fear. 3 days after I'd reclaimed Torres Construction, she knocked on my office doorframe. Dad, can we talk? For 2 hours, my 12-year-old daughter told me about her nightmare, how Damien had isolated her from friends claiming they were bad influences, how he'd convinced her that speaking to anyone outside the family would result in her being sent away forever. He used to stand outside my bedroom door at night, she said quietly, not saying anything, just listening, making sure I knew he was watching. I kept my voice gentle despite my rage. Sweetheart, that's never going to happen again. You're safe now. Her face lit up with the first genuine smile I'd seen since waking up. Really, I can go back to regular school. Have sleevers. Absolutely. We'll enroll you at Cherry Creek Middle School next month. Our dinner conversations became daily highlights. Sophia would chatter about books she wanted to read, friends she hoped to make, activities she'd missed during isolation. Carmen shared plans for redecorating, erasing every trace of Damien's presence. I found myself laughing more than I had in years. One evening, sitting on our front porch, watching sunset paint, the Rocky Mountains gold and purple, I realized something profound. Torres Construction had always felt like my greatest achievement. But with Carmen's head on my shoulder and Sophia reading beside us, I understood my real success was this: my family whole and happy again. Dad, Sophia said, looking up from her book, I'm glad you woke up. Me too, sweetheart. That perfect moment should have been a warning. Happiness this complete felt almost too good to be true. My instincts proved correct when Sophia didn't come home from tutoring Tuesday evening. Carmen called the tutor at 6:30. Sophia had left at 4 o'clock as usual. By 7, when our daughter still hadn't walked through the front door, Carmen's face had gone pale with panic. Caspian, she said, her voice trembling as she held her phone, Sophia's not answering her cell phone. It goes straight to voicemail. My blood turned to ice as Damien's parting words echoed in my memory. You'll regret this. The phone rang at exactly 8:15, cutting through the tense silence in our living room like a blade. Carmen and I both stared at the caller ID showing an unknown number, but we knew who it was before I answered. Hello, Caspian. Damien's voice was calm, almost cheerful, which made it infinitely more terrifying. I trust you're wondering where your precious little daughter is right now. My grip tightened on the phone. If you've heard her, I swear to God, she's perfectly safe, Damien interrupted. For now, but that could change very quickly depending on your cooperation. You see, our little boardroom theatrics last week were quite embarrassing for me. I've had to make some adjustments to my plans. Carmen grabbed my arm, her face white with terror, as she listened to my side of the conversation. I put the call on speaker so she could hear everything. What do you want, Damien? His laugh was cold and mechanical. I want you to come to Torres Construction, alone. Bring all of Warren's recordings and evidence plus signed documents, transferring the company back to me permanently. You have 1 hour. And if I don't, then Sophia won't be coming home for dinner tomorrow, or ever. The line went quiet for a moment before he continued. Oh, and Caspian, if I see any police cars, any sign you've contacted authorities, your daughter dies immediately. This is between you and me now. The call ended, leaving us in devastating silence. Carmen collapsed onto the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. He's going to kill her. He's going to kill our baby. I knelt beside her, forcing myself to think clearly, despite the panic clawing at my chest. Carmen, listen to me. We're not helpless here. I have a plan, but I need you to be strong for Sophia. Through her tears, she nodded. What do you need me to do? I explained quickly but carefully. I'm going to Torres Construction, but I'm not going in blind. When I get there and confirm Sophia's location, I'll text you exactly one word. Okay. The moment you receive that text, you wait exactly 15 minutes, then call Detective Anderson immediately. Tell him Damien has Sophia at Torres Construction and that I'm inside trying to negotiate. Why 15 minutes? Why not call right away? Because I need time to get Sophia away from immediate danger. If police sirens start wailing the second I walk in, Damien might panic and hurt her. 15 minutes gives me a chance to assess the situation and hopefully get her to safety. Carmen wiped her eyes, her maternal instincts overriding her fear. What if something goes wrong? What if 15 minutes isn't enough? I kissed her forehead, trying to project confidence I didn't entirely feel. Then Detective Anderson will know exactly where to find us. Either way, this ends tonight. The drive to Torres Construction felt like the longest 20 minutes of my life. The industrial district was eerily quiet at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, with only scattered streetlights illuminating empty parking lots and darkened buildings. My own company looked ominous in the darkness, like a trap waiting to spring shut. I parked across the street and pulled out my phone. My hands were steadier than I had expected as I typed the message that would either save my daughter or get us both killed. Okay. The word disappeared into cyberspace, and somewhere across town, Carmen would be starting her own 15-minute countdown. The front entrance was unlocked, which should have been my first warning. I stepped into the lobby I'd walked through thousands of times, but tonight it felt like entering a tomb. The elevator was waiting, doors open, as if Damien had anticipated my every move. The smell hit me the moment the elevator doors opened on the 3rd floor, the sharp, acrid odor of natural gas filling the air. My heart hammered against my ribs as I followed the scent down the hallway toward my old office. Through the glass doors I could see a single light burning, and there, tied to a chair in the center of the room, was Sophia. I pushed through the glass doors into what used to be my office, and Sophia's tear-filled eyes met mine across the room. She was tied to a chair with thick rope duct tape over her mouth, but she was alive. That was all that mattered in that moment. Welcome to your retirement party, Caspian. Damien stepped out from behind my old desk, pointing a chrome pistol directly at my chest. He looked different, disheveled, unhinged, with the desperate gleam of a man who had nothing left to lose. I've been planning this moment all week. You humiliated me in front of the board, cost me everything I worked for. Now it's time for payback. He gestured toward a manila folder on the desk. Sign those papers transferring Torres Construction back to me permanently. Then get on your knees and apologize for ruining my life. The gas smell was overwhelming now, making my eyes water and my head spin. I glanced around the room and noticed something that made my blood freeze. The ventilation grates had been sealed shut with duct tape, and I could hear the steady hiss of gas flowing from somewhere behind the walls. You're not planning to let us go, are you? I said, stalling for time while calculating how many minutes had passed since I'd sent Carmen that text. Maybe 8 or 9 minutes. I needed to keep Damien talking. His laugh was maniacal. Let you go, oh Caspian, you really don't understand. This whole building is going to be a tragic accident. Gas leak. Terrible explosion, father and daughter both killed trying to negotiate with a desperate man. By the time the fire department sorts through the rubble, all of Warren's evidence will be ash, and I'll be long gone with a new identity. That's when I realized the full scope of his madness. This wasn't just revenge, it was his escape plan. With me dead and all evidence destroyed, he could disappear and start over somewhere else. The only problem, I said, edging closer to Sophia's chair, is that you're still here too. How exactly do you plan to survive your own gas explosion? For just a split second, uncertainty flickered across his face, and that was all the opening I needed. I lunged forward, tackling him around the waist, and sending us both crashing into the filing cabinets. The gun flew from his hand, skittering across the floor. Damien was younger and desperate, but I was fighting for my daughter's life. We rolled across the floor, throwing punches and grappling for control. Behind us, I heard Sophia making muffled sounds through her tape, and when I glanced over, I saw her working frantically to free her hands from the ropes. Dad, look out. Sophia's voice rang clear. She'd gotten the tape off her mouth. Damien had grabbed a letter opener from the scattered desk supplies and was swinging it toward my ribs. I caught his wrist just in time, and we struggled over the makeshift weapon. That's when the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard filled the building. Police sirens getting louder by the second. Exactly 15 minutes had passed, and Carmen had followed the plan perfectly. No, Damien screamed, realizing his perfect crime was falling apart. You called them, you ruined everything. The office door burst open as Detective Anderson and 2 uniformed officers charged in, weapons drawn. Drop the weapon. Get on the ground now. Damien released the letter opener and raised his hands, his face contorting with rage and defeat. As the officers handcuffed him, I rushed to Sophia and finished untying her ropes. Carmen appeared in the doorway, tears streaming down her face as she ran to embrace us both. We need to evacuate immediately, Anderson shouted over the growing hiss of gas. This whole floor is about to blow. We ran for the stairs, Carmen clutching Sophia, while I helped Anderson drag the handcuffed Damien. We'd just reached the parking lot when Torres Construction erupted in a massive fireball that lit up the Denver skyline. Damien lay on the asphalt, burned and broken, but alive to face justice. As I held my family tight watching my company burn, I realized I'd never been happier to lose a building in my life. 6 months later, I stood in the lobby of our brand new headquarters on 17th Street, watching the morning sun stream through floor-to-ceiling windows that replaced the old brick walls of our destroyed building. The gleaming steel and glass structure rose 12 stories into the Denver sky, a testament to resilience and rebirth. Above the main entrance, elegant letters spelled out Torres and Carmen Construction, a name that honored the woman who'd sacrificed everything to keep our family together. The decision to make Carmen my full business partner wasn't just symbolic. Over the past half year, she'd thrown herself into learning every aspect of construction management, taking courses at the University of Colorado, Denver, and earning her contractor's license. The woman who once apologized for not understanding business finances now reviewed budgets with the precision of a seasoned executive. She transformed from a frightened victim into a formidable businesswoman who commanded respect in every boardroom she entered. Dad, look at this. Sophia's excited voice echoed through our new conference room as she spread architectural drawings across the table. At 13, my daughter had developed a passion for building design that rivaled my own. The trauma of her kidnapping had been replaced by an unshakable confidence and a dream of becoming an architect. She spent weekends at construction sites wearing a hard hat and asking our foreman detailed questions about structural engineering. The scared, isolated girl Damien had tried to break was now a vibrant teenager with plans to change Denver's skyline. Justice had been swift and decisive for Damien Cross. The evidence Warren provided, combined with the attempted murder charges from our final confrontation, resulted in a 25-year federal prison sentence. The judge had been particularly harsh, noting that Damien's crimes represented a calculated betrayal of family trust that strikes at the heart of human decency. He would spend the next quarter-century in a maximum security facility with no possibility of parole. But this story isn't really about revenge or justice. It's about the unbreakable bonds of family and the power of hope to overcome even the darkest circumstances. For 5 years, I lay unconscious while evil took root in my home, but love proved stronger than hatred. Carmen's sacrificial devotion kept me alive. Sophia's courage helped her survive psychological torture. Warren's guilt ultimately led him to redemption and helped us reclaim our lives. Standing in our new building, surrounded by the family I'd almost lost forever, I understood something profound about the nature of success. Torres Construction had always been about creating solid foundations, for buildings, for careers, for communities. But the most important foundation I'd ever built wasn't made of concrete and steel. It was made of trust, sacrifice, and unconditional love. Today, Carmen and I work side by side, building not just structures, but a legacy for Sophia. Our daughter talks excitedly about joining the family business someday, bringing fresh ideas and youthful energy to continue our mission. The Torres name will endure stronger than ever. If you're facing your own impossible circumstances, remember this. No matter how dark things seem, no matter how powerful your enemies appear, never underestimate the strength that comes from fighting for the people you love. Family isn't just about blood, it's about the people who stand by you when everything falls apart and help you rebuild from the ashes. The human spirit is remarkably resilient. With hope, determination, and the support of those who matter most, you can overcome any obstacle and create something beautiful from even the most devastating loss. Don't give up. Your comeback story is waiting to be written. Looking back on this journey, I realize how close I came to losing everything that truly mattered. For 5 years, I lay unconscious while my family suffered in silence. Don't make my mistake. Don't assume your loved ones are safe just because you trust the people around them, and never underestimate how evil can disguise itself as help. This true story taught me that God has a way of bringing us home when we're needed most. I believe the Lord guided my miraculous awakening at exactly the right moment, just as He guides all of us through our darkest hours. Sometimes what looks like coincidence is actually divine intervention working in our lives. The Damien situation reminded me that evil often wears a familiar face, but God sees everything, and justice always finds its way to those who prey on the innocent. These grandpa stories aren't just entertainment. They're reminders that family bonds can never truly be broken, no matter how much time passes or how dire circumstances become. When I saw Sophia afraid of her own grandfather, I understood the true cost of my absence. But God's love has a way of healing even the deepest wounds. This true story could have ended tragically if I'd awakened even weeks later. The greatest blessing wasn't reclaiming Torres Construction, it was hearing Sophia call me Grandpa with genuine love in her voice. These grandpa stories remind us that being present is the most precious gift we can give our families. If this true story touched your heart, please share your own family experiences in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories that celebrate the unbreakable bonds of family love. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.